Can you even believe that this frame used to be brown? I got this frame from a teammate and then I painted it all by myself, kind of inspired by the frames in the back. That video was super fun. I painted it all by myself. That was my first time ever spray painting. If you want to watch it, click up here. So today we gotta get this bike built because I gotta get a couple training rides on it before the upcoming race season. And we're gonna get started right away with the RockShox Boxer. Right here, this is my brand new RockShox Boxer. I've only ever ridden the version before this, so this will be my first time using this. And this red is actually perfectly paint matched to the red splatter on this bike. So super stoked. Let's get this built right now. So obviously before we can put on my amazing fork, we have to put in some bearings, headset. So this is an enduro bearings headset. I got this headset because I've been using Crane Creek before, and I always like blow those up pretty quickly. So today I'm going to try to use these bearings because they have a lifetime warranty, and I think the silver looks sick. So yeah, let's try to get these in here now and see how well it works. I think I just put this in, right? One done. That was actually really easy. Okay, as you can see, this steer tube is straight, and if you notice that these two are tapered, so the bottom one's bigger and the top one's smaller. So we have this part from Crane Creek, so this is the part that we don't know if it'll work right with the enduro bearings headset, but it fits pretty well there. So I'm gonna put this on. So basically all we're gonna do is drop it down, then hammer it so it's flush there, and then now that basically turns this into a tapered steer tube instead of a straight one. So this crown race can be a bit of a pain, especially if you don't have the right tool. But me and my dad came up with this sort of a solution, which is just this like PVC pipe. So you just put it in, and then you put it at an angle, and then you just hit it. And he got it on straight, so pretty impressive to do that without the tool. But now let's put it in the bike. I think the Boxer looks better than amazing on this bike. And the next part is we have to cut this down. But to do that, we have to have our spacers in. This year I'm riding for the DH Fresh Bloods program, and this is a DH crosshair. So yeah, you can get these also in a bunch of different colors. They're super sick. The DH crosshair comes with an 8mm spacer, a 5mm spacer, and a 3mm spacer. But for that, I think for some people that can be too little, and I don't want to cut this too short and then have to buy a new one. So I'm going to add in a 5mm spacer. But for that, if we cut it on top of the 3mm, then our cap will bottom out. So where I'm going to mark it to cut is just right below the 3mm. So it's just going to be right there. I'll mark. We can always cut more later, but it's hard to make it longer. Now we need to cut the steer tube. And before, me and my dad just used this generic pipe cutter, which works fine, but leaves a little bit of a mushroom. But for carbon fiber, you can't use this. So my dad just bought this Park Tool saw guide, and we're going to test that out. But obviously, if we tried to cut this, it would cut the sanctions. So we got to lift this off to cut it. So it's just with a 4mm. It should just slide right off, which it does. There we go. I'm going to put this back in, and then we'll attach the Boxer. Before I put the Boxer on the frame and the upper crown back onto the Boxer, we have another goodie from Deity. This is the Intake DM stem. I got it in stealth just because there's already a lot of color going on in the bike. So this is going to mount here, and I'm doing it now just because sometimes the tubes will get in the way. And it said, they say to grease the threads. So now I'm going to tighten it to 10 Newton meters. I'm going to throw the fender on real quick. So I decided I didn't like how this was with the red spacer in there. So I'm going to take the fork off and cut it down so there's only black spacers. And then while we're at it, I like to use this like neoprene, like squishy hose thing to go around the housing of my cables. Then while this is off, it's much easier access for this. So that basically this just goes in the frame with the cable inside of it so it doesn't rattle against the frame or against the breaker or derailleur cable. Here is one of the cut pieces of the foam. So basically what you're going to do is just put it on the housing. This doesn't have the actual cable in it yet. But housing, I'm just going to do it a little extra. Then I'm going to try to bend it through the corner. Right now, I got the cable in and I'm just trying to feed the foam through. Just going decently. So that's going to be for the shifter cable. So now we got to fish it out here. And this is where it's like a lot easier to have the fork off because we can just like put our fingers in here. Oh, there we go. The brake's a little bit harder, so let's try to do that next. I wasn't planning on revealing what brakes I have until later, but since we're already doing the tubing inside here, I thought we might as well do the tubing for the brake. Just as my last bike, I'm going to be running SRAM Maven Silvers on this bike. I already cut this down to length, but for internal routing with brakes, you have to take off the caliper side or the lever side, depending on what way you're feeding it through. So we're going to take off the lever side this time, and then after we take that off, we'll put this on and then through the frame. But first, I'm going to start by mounting the caliper so we have a good point of contact. Like that. I almost forgot the washers, so make sure you put those on. The Maven Silvers have this really cool feature where it kind of has a pivot point right here. So if this is too tight of a bend, which it is right now for me, I'm going to just crack this open really loosely to get this smooth. And it shouldn't let any air in, but it's fine because we have to take the lever off anyways. Push it down like that, then tighten it. Perfect. And now I'm just going to feed my lever through my frame here. I'm going to have to take the lever off, put this on, and then slide it through the frame. To take the lever off, I'm just going to undo this dust cover. Then it's a size 8 wrench. Oh yeah, and yes, I am wearing gloves. So now I have to cut it because this end is permanent. Okay, there we go. Here. I got the brake and the shifter cable through the top tube with the foam, and now I'm gonna get the boxer back up. We're gonna come back to the brakes and stuff a little bit later, but right now, I really just want to get the shock mounted so I can take off this piece of plastic protecting the frame. So as you can guess, it's a RockShox shock, and this year I'm going to be running the Super Deluxe, which is a super sick shock. It has hydraulic bottom mount, which is like my favorite thing, high speed and low speed compression. This is going to be my spring. So I'm going to start with the 225 spring. We'll go up and down depending, or keep it if I like it. So yeah, this also matches the boxer and the paint. So super stoked on that. Let's get this on the shock right now. Slide it on. It goes on like so. Now I'm going to go 2 full turns. This Norco Range used to be a brown enduro bike, and now I'm turning it into a red, white, and blue downhill bike. But as an enduro bike, it used to have 170 mil of travel in the rear, which is what this Fox DH-X2 was. It blew up, so unfortunately, but now I have this RockShox Super Deluxe Ultimate. So this shock, as you can see, it's a lot longer if you line the eye to eye up. Stock link, it doesn't work because as you can see, it's way too long. So we have this Williams Racing Products. Thanks, mate, that's sick. So we have this Williams Racing Product link. As you can see, it's a lot shorter than the other one. And basically what this does is it lets you run a 27.5 rear wheel, and it lengthens the travel to 206 millimeters. You do have to get a different shock, but it lets the bike run just as good, but with more travel and a smaller rear wheel. Shocks mounted, torqued fully, looks super sick. So to get started with the cockpit, we need a bar. For my bar, I'm going to be running the DoD Skywire 15 mil rise. This is a carbon bar. I've never run a carbon bar, so this is going to be a first for me. And right now it's at 800, and we got to cut that down. So let's get to that. Because I've never run a carbon bar, I've never cut a carbon bar. The process seems pretty straightforward, which is you just tape around where you're going to cut first. So if you don't tape it, I think like the bar can splinter, and that's really bad for it. And then after you tape it, and then mark where you want to cut it on the tape. Then we're going to be using this Park Tool CSB1 saw blade, which is a carbon saw blade. This year I'm going to be running 740 bars, and as you can see, this only goes to 750, so I gotta measure that out and then tape. I'll get to that right now. I'm really nervous for this because it's like a carbon bar, but so there it is, a pretty good cut. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to flip it around and do the other side. A clamping surface, like that. So the DoD Skywire is, I think, technically an enduro bar, but since I'm so light, it should be fine for downhill. That gap and that gap should be equal. Bar is on. Right now I'm just finishing putting on my gloves because the next step is I'm going to mount the brake lever to the brake line, and then we can mount that on here and bleed it. So I need to have the brake in the right place so I know how long the hose should be, but I need a grip to know where the brake's going to be. So this is going to be the grip I'm using. It's a DoD Slim Fit grip. Personally, I like the grips a lot. They're thin, which is nice for my small hands. Then also these are just refills, and you use old clamps because we have a lot of them. So here's just an old clamp. Then you'll just slide the clamp on. Give it a couple of love taps. That is where my brake is going to be about. I'm cutting off a lot. When I raise out, I will always have a number plate here, which is going to push my brake hose up. So when that goes up, and then I'll run it out of the corner of the plate, which it'll sit about here when it's fully turned. And then the line always goes into the brake lever a little. So I think I marked it with the end of the tape there. I think that should be about right. So these hoses are kind of expensive, so I really want to get this right. So I measured like 6 times. This is a screw that holds in the olive. Don't forget that, we almost did, but we got it. Then this is just the final step. It's just a red olive. It's lefty tighty. Right now I'm just tightening this in with an 8mm wrench. So this is an 8mm crowfoot, and then we'll tighten that down to 8 Newton meters. I'm gonna squirt in some IPA. And that's the rear brake. Since we're already working up in this area with cables, I thought it'd be a good time to put on my shifter pod. So for my drivetrain, I'm going to be using the SRAM GX DH shifting. Here's the shifter pod. I'm going to get this on the bike real quick. See you there. This is a ferrule. It just goes on the end of the housing like that. And then the cable goes through the ferrule, then into the housing. We gotta cut this side of the cable to length after we cut the other one, and I don't know where the derailleur is gonna sit. So for that, I have my GX derailleur here, and I'm gonna get that installed right now onto here. So this is just gonna be 10 to 12 Newton meters on a 5. This is just the other ferrule, they're identical. So now I'm just gonna feed it onto the cable. I'm gonna route this through the derailleur so it goes in this hole, around this wheel. That goes there. I can't stand seeing it with only one grip, so I'm just going to slide on the other one. As you probably know from the back brake, I'm running Maven Silvers on this bike, and here's the front one. Now I'm just mounting this to the bar. Rotate that like there. The hose for the front brake is just like, it's just too long, just like the back. So we're going to do the same thing how we did on the back lever to shorten that, and perfect. So I'm super excited to show you the cranks I have, but before we can do that, we have to put on the bash guard / chain guide. So for that, it's a MRP chain guide. It's a specific one to the range. Moving it to position B because I'm going to be running a 34 tooth chain ring. As you can see here, when we line up this front hole, this back hole doesn't align, and that's because right here, the corner is hitting the frame. So basically what we have to do is Dremel off that corner to get it to fit right. I'm going to use this Dremel, which I'm kind of scared of because I don't want my eye to like get poked, but I'm wearing eye protection. So basically I'm just going to follow the line until it's cut. Here it goes. why it break. I think it fell off. Now I just want to clean up the sharp edge. For my first time using a Dremel, it's not horrible. Oh. Let's try again. Just a little bit more on that corner. Sweet. For cranks, I'm super excited to be running the carbon samox cranks. These are the Platinum TM1 cranks because it's a trail bike, technically. So these cranks are super lightweight. I think they're 375 grams. You can get them in sizes 145 to all the way up to 170. They have a regular bottom SRAM dub bottom bracket, so that's really easy to put together. It's a sick graphic. I've been partnering with them for a couple years now, and I helped test these cranks. I've had 0 issues, and they're super durable. Grown-ups can use them. They've passed all the safety tests, and I'm super stoked to be riding them this year, so let's get them on the bike. So I'm just putting some lube on the contact points. There we go. So I'm using this ruler to check the chain line from this cog to this front chainring is straight, which it is. This time we use no spacers. Sometimes we have to use a couple, sometimes we use none. So we just got lucky that we got it on our first try. Now that the cranks are on, I can show you my pedals. So for this season, I'm going to be running the crankbrother mallet DH pedals. I've used their pedals for a couple seasons now. I love them. So yeah, these are the Louis Bruni edition ones, which is just the red and blue color, which will match my bike perfectly. So let's get them on right now. Pedal washer, grease the threads. I'm going to be using the Deity Sidetrack seat. I've been using it for years. I like it because it's a downhill seat. It has a tire cut out there so you can run a little bit lower. I chose the stealth color just because there's a bunch of color going on and it'll match the rest of the components. So let's get it on. As you can see, this seat is an I-beam post, which means it only has one post and one screw to adjust forwards, backwards, and then also the tilt. But a regular seat like this has 2 rails and is normally way more complicated. So this just simplifies it and it's really nice. Also, our seat post is way too long right now, so we'll cut that down later. For my chain, I'm going to be running a SRAM PC1170, which is kind of a nice chain. It has hollow pins, and yeah. So this chain is 120 links, which I think is a perfect amount for the range. Let's get this on the bike. Can't believe that this build is already almost done. I'm hoping to finish today because I just have to bleed the brakes, put on the rotors, tires, and cassette, and the wheels, and then cut down the seat post. Then I should be able to ride it. When we shortened the brake lines, some air got in and some fluid got out. So as you can see, they're pulling straight to bar with no pressure. So we're gonna fix that by bleeding them. This stuff isn't horrible for your skin, but I still don't want it on my hands, so I'm just putting on some gloves real quick. For this, I'm going to be using the SRAM bleed kit. I'm just going to push from the bottom to the top. Got the brake pads out, and now I'm just going to put in the bleed block. So now I'm just cracking the bleed port so I can open it easily.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm just taking off the top bleed screws. Hop wrench is just a nice, easy thread. I pushed it through from the back to the front, and as you can see, I got a big air bubble, and now I'm just going to massage the lever to make sure it's all perfect. So oh, that's real tight. Seems good to me. Now I'm doing the same thing with the front. The Mavens come with organic pads, but I prefer the centered brake pads, so I'm going to get them in the bike right now. The bike is looking so good, but now it's just time for the final piece of the puzzle, which is wheels. As I mentioned with the pedals, I'm working with Crankbrothers this season, and I'm super stoked to be riding the Synthesis DH-11 carbon wheels. So this is the front wheel. It's a 29er. It has about a 31 mil inner spacing. The spokes are like really cool. They're like bladed. They also like specifically tune the front wheel and rear wheel separately. So the front one's a little bit softer for extra grip and cornering. Then the rear wheel is stiffer, so extra rolling speed, and also it can take bigger impacts if you case. So yeah, super sick carbon wheels. I love them. And now the rear wheel. The rear wheel is the same thing except for it's just a 27.5. It has the same bladed spokes, and they have I9 Hydra hubs. Like this, listen to this. So yeah, super stoked to be running these, and now I'm super excited to get them on the bike. So this wheel can't go straight onto the bike. It needs some tires and rotors. For tires this year, I was using these at the end of last season, are the Continental Cryptotals. I have the downhill casing in the super soft compound. I have had really good luck with these. I love how they grip. For rotors, I'm going to be using, I think it's 200 mil SRAM rotors. Also, I've never had a problem. These are the HS2s. So yeah, pretty simple install. Let's get them on. I got these tires and all my other parts from Ride Bicycles. I love their shop. They have like everything. So yeah, huge shout out to them. Ready? Magic. Now I'm just going to do the same thing for the rear. For my cassette, I'm going to be using a SRAM X01 DH cassette. It's a 7-speed, and as you know, I'm using GX on this bike to save a little money because this is really expensive. It's like over $300, but it has a lot of advantages. It's a lot lighter, and also the main one is it has an XD drive. So I can use the Hydra hubs with that XD drive, and also I get a smaller hardest gear. So it's 10 instead of 11 tooths, so I have a hardest gear, and it's a lot lighter. So let's get this on the bike right now. This is just going to go to 40 Newton meters. Now the cassette's on. I like to clean my rotors with some IPA before I get them on to make sure not to contaminate the brake pads. And these will just go to 6.2 Newton meters. Can't wait to see what it's going to look like with the wheels on. 13 Newton meters. Perfect. Don't forget the other side. Got the wheel on for the first time. Listen to this. Perfect. To cut this post, we're going to have to take it out of the stand. Got seat post all cut, and now I'm just putting it back in.
Looks weird.
Like that. Feels kind of back, but good. Right now I'm just adjusting my bar roll. I cannot believe that this bike came together and looks this good. Remember, when I got this was just a brown frame, and now look at it. But of course, I couldn't have had this happen without my dad, Norco, Sweetlines, and all my other sponsors. So right now, I'm going to be putting on some stickers to show them some love. So first, I'm going to put on this little Sweetline sticker, which is just going to go right there. Next, I would like to thank samox. I've been working with them for a couple years. I helped develop these cranks and love the cranks, so let's put this sticker on. Next, I would like to thank crankbrothers. On this bike, I'm running their wheels and their pedals. I just want to acknowledge them. I only have this white sticker. I wish it was black, but yeah, still better than nothing. Next, I would like to thank Deity. I'm running their grips, their carbon bars, their stem cap, their seat posts, and their seat. So I have this black Deity sticker that's just going to go right there. Next, I would like to thank Ride Bicycles. I got most of my parts from there, all the way from like all the suspension, most of the drivetrain, and then all the way to like these tiny bolts, like this bolt and all the little plastic pieces. Right now, I don't have their biggest sticker, but I'm just going to put on this one right now. And lastly, since I painted and built the whole thing, I wanted to put my own name sticker on it. And that's the final touch to this bike, but also the end of this video. And if this doesn't deserve a like and subscribe, I don't know what does, because this bike is absolutely insane. I can't believe I did this. I learned so much through this process, and I'm going to go ride it soon, so make sure you stay tuned for the next one.